It's that time of year for the Big 3 event held in Daytona, Florida. The Big 3 event is a gathering of many of your favorite gun writers and bloggers, as well as manufacturers of guns and gear. Every year the event is held in one of two locations, either Daytona, Florida, or Junction City, Kansas. The purpose of the event is to bring gun writers together with the manufacturers so the gun writers can get a peek at what's new and exciting for the coming year. It gives the writers a chance to use the products and to ask questions of the companies that manufacture them. But it's not all about work. It's also about having a good time and making mutually beneficial, long-lasting connections. RS Regulate is an innovative company that specializes in optics mounts for AKs. Their mounts are the best in the business in my experience. They've taken proven Russian technology and advanced it considerably, helping to bring the AK into the 21st century.
I'm here with Scott Huskisson. He is the president of RS Regulate. And RS Regulate is one of those companies that really caught my interest, where they did something that not necessarily unique, but was just extremely well done when it came to an accessory that was very needed for Kalashnikov rifles. And that was, they started building mounts for them. In this case, you have a regular optic, but they started off with like ACOG and red dot sight mounts that were just above and beyond anything that was out there. And you can take a look at this and you can see that this is not your standard Warsaw block, com block mount. And Scott, could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in making mounts?
Certainly. I bought an ACOG because they were my dream optic, and I had this dusty old ACOG, and I had an AK, and nobody made an ACOG to an AK adapter. I figured, I'm an engineer, I can figure this out, I'll just make one. So I started putting together some ideas, talked to some friends, came up with what I thought was the best mount in the world, put it on my rifle, loved it, then I found out it wouldn't fit my friend's rifle.
That's the downside as far as Kalashnikovs go. They're not necessarily like AR-15s where basically if it bolts onto this, it bolts onto that. There's so much difference between different manufacturers, receivers, or in some cases, different production lots. So you didn't build a mount, you actually built a complete system.
Correct. We went from a mount to a mount family.
Okay, so if you have a Kalashnikov rifle and it has a side rail on it and you want to put an optic on it instead of just running iron sights, you now have a complete system from RS Regulate that you can choose from.
A number of companies were present at the event, including Alexander Arms, inventors of the 50 Beowulf and the 6.5 Grendel, as well as Savvy Sniper, makers of my favorite slings, and Sky. Sky is a Florida-based company that manufactures affordable concealed carry handguns. I've posted a video about their handguns previously, and I'll post a link to that video in the description below. Wolf Ammo was there as well, and provided much of the ammo we shot over the course of a couple of days. Congressman Ron DeSantis made an appearance at the Big 3 event and brought along his wife. Both Representative DeSantis and his wife talked with the group about the current political climate. He also gave the group a short speech about his views on our Second Amendment rights and answered questions folks had about a wide variety of subjects, but mostly centered around our Second Amendment rights. I was extremely impressed with his position regarding our rights. Representative DeSantis joined us on the firing range and fired both the Tavors rifle and the Sky pistol, which is manufactured in his district there in Florida.
When I ran, I said I was a constitutional conservative, and that means that your primary duty as an office holder is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, so help you God. And when you're doing that, you can't just pick and choose which parts of the Constitution that you like and don't like. And what I saw from a lot of liberals were they had this politically correct version of the Constitution where they believed in this type of First Amendment right or this type of Fifth Amendment right. They didn't really believe in the Second Amendment or some of these other rights that are protected. And to me, that's just unacceptable. And so, I view the Second Amendment as an important right. I think as free people, you have an inherent right to defend yourself. And I think that speaks to that. And so, I'm proud to stand with the oath that I took.
Our host, CJ, and his former teammate that served with him in Iraq, Rich, decided to give the group a demonstration of what it's like to fire from a moving vehicle at a threat. We loaded up the car with cameras, and a couple of riders jumped in the back seat to witness the event firsthand.
Save your mag.
Other companies that were in attendance included Gunslinger Holsters, manufacturers of innovative Kydex holsters. IWI was also on hand and brought out several copies of the Tavor, along with a representative from Israel, Amihai. My good friend Mark Krebs also joined in on the fun and brought along several of his most recent creations. Huntertown Arms brought out several suppressors for the group to play with on a variety of rifles. Last but certainly not least, Action Target sponsored the event and brought out a wide variety of targets for us to shoot at. Definitive Arms is a Florida-based company that customizes 5.56mm AK rifles with a unique magazine adapter, allowing it to use standard AR-15 magazines. I've tested the magazine conversion on one of my Sega AKs and found it works extremely well.
I'm here with Chase Sisgold, the owner and president of Definitive Arms, and he has a magazine system that has really caught my attention. There are times when a new product comes out that, you know, it's pretty interesting, pretty neat, but there's very rarely something that really grabs your attention like this magazine system has to me. And I got to tell you, I'm really impressed by what you've done here. I've seen a lot of other magazine systems that are designed to integrate an AR-15 style magazine with a Kalashnikov rifle, but this is by far the best one that I've had a chance to play with. And I was wondering if you could tell us how you came up with the idea and why you did this.
Well, I've been into guns for as long as I can remember, and I've been into machining and tinkering with things, and I've owned a lot of AR-15s, owned a lot of AKs, and I appreciated the tactical edge of an AR-15, and A, knowing you're out of ammo, B, being able to change a magazine quickly, and I also appreciated the ease of maintenance and the reliability of the Kalashnikov platform. So kind of became, thought process of, well, how can I get the best of both worlds? And there's been some previous stuff on the market, and originally I had a Israeli Galil magazine adapter, which I'd retrofitted to the gun. But the mags weren't drop free, it wasn't very ergonomical, it had a lot of stuff that was just not complete. I felt it could go a little further. I started tinkering, and I'd had stuff in the design page, just drawings and things, but hadn't made any parts. So I started making parts, and at a point the end result was this magwell and the few pieces that are inside it, and it locks the bolt open after firing the last shot on an empty magazine, and you'd have the push button magazine release that's very conveniently located for the trigger finger, similar to an AR-15, but it's actually a little closer. You don't have to quite extend forward with it. And after you would insert a fresh loaded magazine, here you have the control for the bolt release that's very ergonomically placed for the pad of your thumb or release the bolt, and you would go back into shooting and repeat the process.
Now, this is one of the things that I like about this, is that it's very well thought out as far as from the operator side of view. Everything is exactly where you need it, where you want it, and it only does exactly what you want it to do. This is a factory installed device though, is?
Yes, sir.
So, I've got an Arsenal 5.56 rifle, and as a lot of you know, the 5.56 AK mags can be, difficult to find, especially if you want a quantity of them. So if I was to send you my Arsenal rifle, exactly how does the process happen?
Well, we get your rifle in. Obviously we take off the original magazine catch if it were a Saga. There's a plate in the fire control group that needs to be moved forward. And we do some machine work on the receiver. We also do machine work on the trunnion. When we go about that though, since Kalashnikovs vary greatly in tolerance, we put them into the CNC and they all get probed one to one. I got a formula that I go about how much I take off, where I take it off, and every one gets cut one at a time. Same thing with the magazine wells themselves. I put them on and I have a gauging procedure where they go on and no two have ever been the same, because I have a list by serial number of what got done what way for QC purposes. And we put them on, they get riveted, they get welded in place, and every single one, some of the small parts like the bolt hold open might require a little bit of fitting, so they get hand fitted at the factory. And I QC every single rifle that's built, and I go out and test fire them to make sure any of my employees do the work right. And at that point the system's pretty much installed, and we we send it back to the customer. If they want additional work, like refinishing, threading, that's other stuff. But you know, the gist of it is just the one-to-one machining that goes into the gun and the fitting of the system.
Okay, now if I was, you know, a possible customer, some of the questions I would have is, one is how much is it going to cost?
Well, depending on variant, you know, the cost will start around $350. That depends again on variant and how much work has to be involved. If somebody wants extra stuff, or if they send us a complete factory gun that needs to have, you know, Saga has to have the plate drilled out and stuff like that. And that's just the parts in the white, the machining on the gun, the fitting and the installation, and stuff like that. And then additional work would obviously be more money.
Okay, now number two is, say I have regular GI magazines, or I have P-mags, or I have blah, 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 different types of magazines. What type of magazines will this work with? As
far as I can tell, it shoots with any magazine that you can put in it that's meant for an AR-15. I know we've ran Gen 1, 2, and 3 P-mags, GI mags, all different makes and models, the Troy Battle mags, Lancer mags, the new Lancer AWMs, you know, some different drums. As far as I know, there's nothing that doesn't work in it. And you know, I believe Tim has tried a number of magazines I don't have my hands on. He said they all work well. So as far as I can tell, it works with everything.
Okay, and then what's your current turnaround time, knowing that the turnaround time can change?
Well, for completed factory rifles, turnaround time is at the moment unknown, because we're waiting to get more rifles and we don't know when that'll be. We have a wait list for work. Once we have your rifle in our hands, the work's usually done in about 2 weeks, but we ask that you allow 3 to 6 in case there's any complications or we need parts or a machine breaks down or something of that nature. But you know, we don't ask that you send your rifle to us in advance. We don't want to be holding it for 6 months. It's just not how we operate. So you know, you can hold on to your stuff, and once we get it, it's usually back to you within a month.
Another question people might have is this going to affect the reliability of my rifle?
Well, part of the design was figuring out how could I keep it simple and how could I get the functionality I wanted with as little parts as possible. And you know, you can take any of the parts out of it and you'll lose some functionality, but the gun will still work. You could break any of the parts and the gun will still work. You know, there's one spring in here for the bolt return, or the bolt hold open to return. If the spring is missing or broke, it'll just rattle, but it'll work. So essentially, you don't lose any of the reliability of the Kalashnikov platform, and you just have a little bit of added utility to it.
Well, Chase, I appreciate your time. This is definitely one new product that you're going to want to check out.
I always enjoy the Big 3 events and look forward to them every year. It's a great opportunity for like-minded folks to get together, shoot some guns, check out some gear, and prepare ourselves for the coming season of reviews. The event isn't just for big companies. It's about giving a voice to the smaller companies too, and getting them in front of the gun writers so they can get exposure for their product. I want to thank our hosts CJ and David Fortier for all they do to make this event happen, and I will certainly be back again next year. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll talk to you guys soon.